Leafs GM Brad Treliving had a press conference today, and here is the trade for Mitch Marner that he announced. Would be a way more exciting way to start a video, but no, it's just the Leafs GM talking to the media, and he said some things, and some of them were pretty interesting. But first, this video is brought to you by no one. I just want to take a moment to say thank you. This YouTube channel, which is almost entirely about talking about one hockey team, just reached 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that is a huge accomplishment, and I just want to say thank you. This was my 18th season making videos after every single Leafs game. It takes a while. 250,000 subscribers for Steve Dangle before the Leafs make an appearance in the third round and before GTA 6. It's unbelievable. I really appreciate it. There is a reason why I always say click like and click subscribe and tell all your friends, because all three of those things help me out a lot. Enough about me. Let's talk about Brad Treliving and what he said. These press conferences are always kind of funny because there's the prepared statements, which they've had time to think about and write, and then there's how they respond to questions, which is usually a little bit different, a little bit more off the cuff. Man, Treliving is so built for this. Like Kyle Dubas, I loved his honesty and I loved his passion, but sometimes it would get him into trouble. He had two modes, which was like super over-rehearsed and too honest. Brad Treliving's just up there having a conversation. His opening statements were about last summer and the decisions he made and the priority for defense, and I thought it was very funny that he mentioned Yanni Hakanpää amongst Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but he did mention taking swings, and not all of them worked. Yanni Hakanpää being one of them. He talked about the goalies, moving off of Samsonov, building around Joseph Woll, getting a tandem goalie to play with him, and it's Anthony Stolarz. These are all things that I think we can agree are strengths of the Leafs. There's their D-core. There are some things that could be better about the D-core, but they're pretty good, and they're all locked up. The goaltending, even if they were to regress a little bit, Stolarz makes $2.5 million. Woll makes 3.66. That is an unbelievable tandem at an unbelievable price. Real good foundation. Oh, and you have William Nylander. And you have Austin Matthews. After that, some questions. Here's what I was really into, because Marner, Tavares, culture, DNA, all that is noise. The Leafs lost a 7-game series against the reigning Stanley Cup champions, who just made redonkulously quick work of the Carolina Hurricanes. Just like in their series against the Leafs, the Panthers lost a game, and the way they won the next one made it seem like they were just playing with their food. We've talked about Game 7. That was awful. We've talked about Game 5 against the Panthers. That was awful. Game 3. They were up 2-0. They were up 3-1. They could have been up 3-0 in the series, and they lost that game in overtime, and it was Brad Marchand. Game 7 made me the most mad. Game 5 made me second most mad. Game 3 is what's going to haunt me all summer, and Brad Treliving talked about that a little bit. Seems like he agrees.
I know we all talk about 5 and 7, and we'll get to that. I don't think, in my mind, I believe a big moment in that series is Game 3. You're playing against the Stanley Cup champions. You got a chance to get them on the mat. We're up 2-0. We're up 3-1. Critical moment. We weren't able to close that out. It's not to close out the series, but the 3-0 lead is we know what the odds are and the percentages there if we were to get ourselves in that position. We're still in a series. It's 2-1. You're playing against the champs. Game 5 here. Critical moment. Series is tied. We weren't good enough. We weren't good enough in the moment. We go to Game 6. All the credit to the staff, the players. They win a big Game 6 on the road, and then we come back for Game 7. And that series is going to stay with me for a long time. The way it ended will stay with me for a long time. It would stay with me if it was 2-1 in triple overtime. When you think you have a chance to win and you don't, it stays with you.
This is where we start to get into the essence of the Leafs and why they need change, in my opinion. That's me interjecting myself around Brad's words. Watch what he says about what the best teams do.
I don't care if you're playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs, if you're playing in the whatever sport, you're playing in the Masters, you're in your own business. Champions have the ability to be calm and at their very best when it matters the most. And that is an area that we've got to improve in. I think there has been steps. I know the history. I've been here for 2 years. We lost a Game 7 in Game 1. We lost a Game 7, or in Round 1, lost a Game 7 in Round 2. I know what's happened before as well. But we have to be able to find a way to push through at the most critical moments.
Okay, so this is just a generalization, and I don't want to put words in Brad's mouth, but here's what I extrapolate from that. The best teams are calm when they need to be at their best. From that, I take the Leafs are not. Brad Treliving also didn't say this part, but this is why Shanahan had to go. Brad Treliving talked during this press conference about he's been here 2 years. He's no longer just got here. He's been here for 2 years. And he acknowledges everything that happened before he just got here, which was a lot. Here's what's so annoying to me about the Leafs. If it's obvious after this playoff loss that change is needed, then it should have been obvious after last year's playoff loss that change was needed. And the year before that, and the year before that, and arguably the year before that. Now, they did make changes. They changed the coach. Brad Treliving did that. They changed the GM. Brad Treliving was that change. He had a whole bunch of different defensemen, and he changed it up in net, and it still led down the same path to the same result. Because the core was the same. Now, this is much later in the press conference, but I'm moving it up because he talked specifically about how Game 7 happened down to the first goal.
You're all fired up for Game 7, and one team looked like they were completely comfortable in the situation, and the other team didn't. I thought we survived. I thought they came out. I know the shot attempts and all that stuff were one-sided. I didn't think we gave up a lot of grade A stuff. We found our footing, killed a penalty right at the end of the first period. Well, even before that, I thought from the 10-minute mark on, we were carrying play. We had some grade A chances. We had some breakaways. I thought the turning point there, Steve, was, and this is where I come back to it, was the first goal. I thought when the first goal happened, we almost looked like a team that it was 4-0. I'll never question the want, the care. These guys want it. They want to be successful. They want to get to where we all want to get to. But at that point, it looked like a team that was more comfortable. One team looked more comfortable than the other. From the 10,000-foot view, when it became 1-0, I felt there was a real tightness of our team. There was a real tightness in the moment. And like I said, champions are the calmest at the most critical time. And that's an area that we've got to get through.
Again, it's insane to me that we're having this conversation in 2025. There's a lot of talk about the pressure with the Leafs, and a lot of that has been put on Toronto, and a lot of that has been put on Leafs fans. That doesn't make any sense. I do believe that it has to do with being the Leafs, just not in the way that a lot of people think. Someone posted a compilation of all the Leafs playoff goals from 2017 against the Washington Capitals. Oh, it breaks my heart. I almost welled up. But go and look at that team, that young, youthful team. They scored, and every goal they scored, they celebrated like it was the World Juniors. They're jumping into the boards. They're going nuts. The crowd, very happy about the ongoings, by the way. But you lose to the Capitals, but everyone, I was there. I was in the building for Game 6 against Washington. When they lost, they were cheered off the ice after getting eliminated. You blow a third period Game 7 lead against Boston the next year, just like you did in 2013. That's when the demons creep in. 2019, it looks like you're taking a step, right? You're up 3-2 on Boston. You led after Game 1, Game 3, and Game 5. You have a chance to win on home ice. You don't. Game 7 goes back to Boston. You lose 5-1. It is your worst game of those playoffs. Now the demons have taken root. 2020 bubble, good Lord. Who even knows what happened there? 2021, you blow the 3-1 series lead to Montreal. I'm sorry, the demons have permanent residence in your head. Those last two losses that I talked about, by the way, Montreal and Columbus, were in empty buildings! Yes, there was still TV. Yes, there was still radio. Yes, there was social media. And yes, there were people in players' lives who were happy to send them links to every negative thing said about them. But this team that wilts in the biggest moments, this team that went down 1-0 in Game 7 looked like they were down 4-0 because of the things that happened years ago, and they wouldn't move off it. So here's what they're looking for.
When it matters the most, you have to embrace it. You know, you have to embrace it. With all the things that are the challenges in front of you, good opponent, the stage, what's at stake, you've got to find a way to embrace that moment and ultimately succeed in it, right? The margins are thin. You know, the margins are really, really thin. And when I say that, it's not, I don't believe that you have to go and change 20 players, right? It's not always about that. It's what can we do to help our guys? What can we do to find guys that can help? If there is change that we need to make with the team, how do we bring people in that have a mindset like that? But it's those big moments of really embracing it, but finding a way, whatever that way is, to get through it and have success.
If you don't have players who can embrace the moment, and it's obvious that they have a long track record of not being able to embrace the moment, you gotta start over. Not the whole thing. I mean, you don't have to get rid of everybody, but you gotta bring in outside help, significant outside help. Either guys who have done it or guys who have given you enough evidence that they might be able to do it someday. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has done it. Chris Tanev hasn't quite done it, but sure seems like he might be able to. And Matthew Nyes has, I mean, he's very young in this league, but none of us doubt that he could do it. This team is on the hunt for gamers. And finally, I can't believe it took this long, Mitch Marner was talked about specifically, and also John Tavares and their contract talks.
So we're going to meet as a staff. I'm going to be in touch with Mitch's representative and all of our players' representative, and determine what's best. Right now, Mitch has a say in this as well. Right. So this isn't the world according to Brad. I think he's a great player. He's been a great player here. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this all works. Can I think Mitch can succeed? Yes, I do. But as I said before, we've all got to kind of take a step back and look at, you know, we can't be rigid in our thought process of saying we can only do something one way. And like I said, he's got a say in the process. So again, another wordy answer to say we'll see. And same thing with John, you know, and really all of our UFAs, right? Really good players. I'm a huge John Tavares fan. Had a really good discussion with him. We gotta take a step back, meet with our group. How do we best move forward? What are the costs? What is all those things that go into a contract and everything else? And how does it fit within the puzzle? So we'll see how that happens over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Can I ask a question that might be unfair? When isn't it an emotional moment? Playing in Toronto is emotional, and Game 7 is emotional, and having to figure out your future is emotional. Yes! Look at me! I'm emotional! Life is about making decisions, and a lot of them are in emotional moments. It's May 29th. When Brad Treliving joined the Leafs in 2023, it drove me nuts because there was a decision to be made with Mitch Marner regarding his no-move clause, right? Remember that? Brad goes, I just got here. Really, it was the guy above him, and Brendan Shanahan probably, at least that's my assumption, going, yeah, no, I don't want to trade this player. So they don't make an emotional, quick decision. They wait. His no-move clause kicks in. The beginning of this season comes. Won't negotiate a contract during the season. A trade presents itself. You go, hey, can we trade you? He goes, no. I have a full no-move clause that you let kick it. You knew about for 4 years, and you let kick in. No, I'm not waiving it. And now here we are. It's the very end of May. That contract expires in a month, And we're talking about not wanting to make a quick emotional decision. Nope, not how life works. Let's make a decision. What is it going to be? There are lots of ways to win a championship and lots of ways to lose a championship. And I'm positive one of them is not sitting idly at a green light. Brad gave a much more concrete answer on John Tavares in that, he did say Mitch Marner is a star, but he talked about how he's a big John Tavares fan. A little bit later on, CJ, reporter Chris Johnston, asks a question and it cuts to the chase. And it wasn't a great answer from Brad in that there wasn't a lot of content in the answer, but I thought his immediate reaction to the question was awesome.
Mitch has had several chances this year to say he wants to stay in Toronto and has yet to do so, including last week. I'm just wondering if that doesn't change and he walks out the door, how do you ensure that this team doesn't take a step back without him?
Good question, right? It's there's not a hockey tree out there that you just go and pluck the player off of. So, our job is to make the team look at all the options. That's what we got to go through here right now. I can't sit here and give you a definitive answer. We've got to, number one, go through the process with Mitch, right? Our staff is in the process now of looking at all different outcomes. But we've got to kind of drive what we think is the best outcome. And like I said, in Mitch's case, he's got a say in the matter. I don't think, you're not necessarily, if that was the outcome, and we'll see where this goes, I don't think you're just going out and saying, okay, let's go get this player and he replaces Mitch. Maybe that's where I talked about we have to change a little bit, right? We have to change the makeup of the team. But that's speculation right now. That's hypotheticals that I don't like to necessarily get into. So we'll see is the answer. And again, it's not trying to be elusive as much as you have to try to prepare for every potential outcome.
Yep. Marner has had the chance to say, yeah, I want to be here. I want to be a Leaf. And the Leafs have had the same opportunity, and they're both being pretty wishy-washy about it. I'm going to assume this guy is just gone. I'm going to assume he's just gone. And all my off-season content, until we hear otherwise, is going to be geared towards, okay, how do you fill the hole left by Mitch Marner? Because as far as I can tell, he's gone. There were a couple more things where I'm just going to paraphrase Brad Treliving. Luke Fox asked a very good question about Austin Matthews injuring himself in training camp, and basically Matthews said at the end of the season, yeah, I'm going to be fine for the upcoming training camp. And Luke was asking a question based on the observation that a few people have made. Wait a second, June, July, August, September. Wait, you could have just had him sit out during the season and he could have been at 100%. Right? Well, Brad talked about how it was a little more complicated than that. There were days where Matthews felt really good, and he played really good. Some days it flared up, and he didn't look very good. He also talked about the fact that the injury was originally listed as day-to-day, and then it obviously became, hey, I'm out for a month, and also I'm in Europe. They did earnestly believe that it was day-to-day. They weren't necessarily lying. That's just what they thought. And the other thing tied to the Austin Matthews conversation is Brad Treliving didn't want to get into all the specific injuries that the Leafs were battling throughout the season and throughout the playoffs, which it's obviously way more interesting to know what happened to all the players, and it might answer some questions, but ultimately that's a player's medical stuff, and they're entitled to their privacy there. And last but not least, I thought it was very interesting when Brad Treliving talked about the Leafs' defense and needing more offense from them. Obviously, in terms of goal scoring, they were one of the last, if not the last teams in the NHL. They were unreal to start these playoffs, but wasn't around during the regular season. Yes, the Leafs get hemmed in a lot. He talked about that, but they give up volume, not grade A opportunities. That was how the Leafs won a lot of games. They're like, yeah, just pepper us with garbage and our goalies will stop all that garbage, give you the occasional big save, obviously, and then we're just going to capitalize on our chances and we're going to go for good chances. What is interesting, though, is all the D are locked up. So unless they make a big personnel change on defense, which doesn't sound like it's going to happen, they have to play differently from within. That's down to personnel, that's down to like what they do individually, and that's down to what the coaching staff tells them to do. So that press conference to me was the most interesting parts. Like Tavares, we're not going to learn a lot there. Marner, we're not going to learn a lot there. He's not going to announce any trades. He's obviously not firing anyone. He talked a little bit about the draft. The most interesting stuff to me was how Brad Treliving is going to look back at the series, what he thought about games 3 and 5 and 7 of this series, and what he thinks this team lacks, and a little bit of reading between the lines at what a championship quality team does and what the Leafs did. What did you think of Brad Treliving's press conference? And by the way, if you haven't seen the whole thing, all 39 minutes of it, is uploaded to the Toronto Maple Leafs YouTube channel. For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends. Once again, thank you for 250,000.